everybody. Thanks for having me. Okay, so I'm at Dave Delaney on Twitter, so if you'd like to say hello and say nice things, go ahead and do that. If you hate my presentation, go ahead and just don't say anything there, please. I am from Toronto. It's great to be back in Ontario area. I've been living in Nashville for the last 6 years, so if I say anything like y'all or something weird and southern sounding, that's why, so you can go ahead and ask me for a translation later. Also from southern Ontario, so I tell that to people in the States, I say, I'm southern Ontario. Anyway, so I have a little book called New Business Networking. It's coming out any day now, depending on what Amazon decides. But it seems to be any day, like May 31st, I think. So if you would like to check that out, you can. And so I came here today to speak to you about networking, professional networking, business networking. You know, Mitch mentioned connections and building relationships with your customers and building relationships. And I think that's an extremely important point and something I'm going to talk to you about. Networking, by the way, folks, is a two-way street. And so as I talk about this, remember that you're not meeting people to find something great for yourself, although that would be nice. You're meeting people to help others, two-way street. And it begins by finding your passion. Ice cream, I mean, who doesn't love ice cream? But it's about finding your passion. You know, you're here today at Tweetstock because I assume you have a passion for social media, right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So, you know, you're in a room right now filled with 100 plus people, all with a similar passion, all with a similar interest. So you automatically already have something to talk about on the break after this or during lunch. And I'm going to keep going back to this point because I want you to take the time today to meet people you don't know, okay? Because it's important. You know, I met, the reason why I'm here today actually is because of my friend John Morgan, who I met, who's from Nashville, Tennessee. We're buddies from Nashville. And he set it up to have me come here from Nashville back to Ontario. It's crazy, I know. So when people, you know, like-minded people meet, and that's another thing with networking and social media, like-minded people, great things happen, right? Like these two guys who invented Microsoft, yeah. They met at a computer group, a little computer programming group, and they met, and Microsoft was born from that. You know, these two guys, a similar story. They met at a Hewlett-Packard lecture, and Apple was born from this relationship, right? So when you meet like-minded people, great things happen, amazing things happen. A little plug for CC there. Like these guys. Siegfried and Roy, you know, and they met because they had a similar interest in magic, right? On a cruise ship. I don't know what else happened. That's not for discussion here. And I also want to point out, this is the first time ever in presentation history that these three groups of people were on the same slide. So I'm quite proud of that. So we'll cherish that moment for a second. Okay. So passions lead to paths. You know, I think of my own passions. I have a deep passion, obviously, for marketing and promotions. That's what I do for a living. But, you know, and growing up, you know, I went to Ryerson and studied marketing there. And very aggressively, not in a bad way, but knocked on a lot of doors in Toronto to try to find my way in to, you know, kind of jumpstart my career. And from that, I ended up, you know, this deep passion for technology and marketing. And I've always been huge into entertainment. And it's always been a big interest of mine too. So from this experience of, you know, following this path from my passions, it led me to a job with Mervish Productions, and I was the marketing manager for the Toronto production of Hairspray. Did anybody see Hairspray? Yeah, cool. So that was my show. And from that, you know, I established a great relationship with the Toronto Star, and we did a lot of, you know, really good promotions together, and it was perfect because I could give them tickets, they could give us remnant space, you know, co-branded promotions. It worked really well, and I fell in love with the promotional side of this. And when the show ended in Toronto and wrapped up, they called me and they said, "Hey, come work for us." So I got a job as a promotions executive for the Toronto Star. You know, following that path of the things that you're really interested in, and that's what I want you to be thinking about today while you're here at Tweetstock. Right? That, you know, my Toronto Star gig ended up opening doors for me and led me to meet with people at Global Television. And next thing I knew, I was working at Global Television in marketing and promotions. So by following your passions, they lead to great things. But you have to really know what that is. And your business, I hope your business is built from your passions, because otherwise you're going to wake up every morning and hate your job. And so I hope that you keep this in mind as I discuss this stuff and as we talk about it. And as I mentioned, we're here at Tweetstock. You guys are into social media, so start talking about that stuff on the break. Meet people you don't know. Back in 2005, I had a little podcast with my wife called Two Boobs and a Baby. A lot of disappointed people came to that website. I have a bounce rate joke, but I won't bother you with that one. But anyway, so the podcast was from 2005 to 2008. And it was the first parenting podcast in Canada, and one very early podcast in Canada anyway. But my point to this is that I was passionate about parenting, still am. We still have the kids and everything. And I got really excited about podcasting. I still am a huge fan of the medium. And going to PAB, Podcasters Across Borders. Was anybody here at Podcasters Across Borders? I know Mitch was, because that's where Mitch and I met back in 2006, was Podcasters Across Borders, this conference in Kingston. So, I want you to be thinking, and another thing on this point, when I moved to the States in 2007, I went to Ontario, California for a little conference there called Podcast New Media Expo, where I met Cece Chapman, where we became friends. I mean, we knew each other online, but that's where we met in real life. And when you meet in real life, something magical happens. I'm sure you can speak to that now, and if you'll certainly feel that way by the end of the day. So finding events and places where you connect with people with similar interests is key. For my point about attending events is to find the events. So you found this event. Pat yourself on the back. You found Tweetstock. You're here, right? Yes, excellent. There are other events of other things that you're interested in. There's events about just about anything that you're interested in. If you go to meetup.com and you put in your zip code, postal code. See? Man, I'm sorry, everybody. Anyway, if you put in your postal code or your city in meetup.com, you'll find a bunch of events that are taking place around you. Small, casual meetups around topics that you're interested in. When I moved to Nashville, the first thing I did was actually one of the first things I did was look up podcasting meetups. And I found a podcasters meetup in Nashville and went and hung out there and met a bunch of people. So find the events where your interests lie that will help you connect with people and help you grow your business. Now, I think of Eventbrite. How many people use Eventbrite? It's perfect for ticketing for your event if you're organizing one, but you can go to Eventbrite and log in and see, if you connect it with Facebook, you can see where your Facebook friends are attending, what events they're attending. So it's a perfect opportunity for you to look and find other events in your area. Even facebook.com/events, even though that gets a little spammy sometimes, but you can find events that your friends are at too. So I highly recommend that you take some time to look for events that are around your areas of interest, right? It may be for your business. It may be just a hobby that you have, but great things lead from this. I used the three guys at the beginning as an example of this. That all came from shared passions and interests and how they connected. Sponsoring events. If your business has some money to sponsor an event, what a perfect way to put your brand in front of people that would have a genuine interest in your services, right? I mean, the Tweetstock sponsors, right? They are here to meet with you. And jobs may come from that, or co-branded promotions may come from that, or consulting jobs may come from that. Think about connecting with the sponsors, because they're always they're the ones who want to connect with you. And smart sponsors aren't sponsoring events to just shill and try to sell you stuff. They're there to make relationships as well. They're there to actually talk to you. So if you don't know anybody in an event, go talk to the sponsors first, because they want to talk to you, right? And organizing events. So in Nashville, when I moved to Nashville, I co-founded PodCamp there and BarCamp there with some friends. And those events have really taken off over the years. And I found that there was a disconnect between the two events where the community kind of went back to wherever they came from for those events. So I started something called Geek Breakfast. And John Piercy, John, up there's John. Woohoo! John just started a Geek Breakfast chapter in Hamilton. And there's Geek Breakfast chapters now all over the world, actually, all from starting this thing. So it's just an opportunity. It doesn't cost any money. You just go, you have breakfast with geeks. It's cool, right? It doesn't have to be overly complex. I do another monthly cocktail thing called Nashcocktail, which is a social media cocktail hour where people hang out, drink, and talk about stuff. I often say it's like Geek Breakfast, but with booze. But if you can't find an event in your area around an area of interest you're passionate about, create your own event. It's easy to do. It doesn't take time, or it doesn't take a lot of time. When I worked with Griffin Technology for 3.5 years, and I ran all their social media in Nashville, and every time I went to an event, every time I went to any conference, I would have a meetup before the conference or a tweet up, just as a way to connect with our customers, right? So think about this in your own way. When you go to an event, or go to a conference, why not have a little meetup before? This wasn't just for people that were attending the conferences either. I would always have it open to anybody who wanted to come. So for example, before Macworld in San Francisco, I had a meetup there for our customers. Or before South by Southwest, I did it in Austin, or CES in Vegas. It was always an opportunity to connect with our customers, come hang out, very casual. Again, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just meeting our customers. Because that way, when they got to a Best Buy or a Target or an Apple store, and they were holding a Griffin product in one hand and a competitor's product in the other one, guess what? Guess which product they chose? And then they would tweet me directly to say, hey, look what we bought. Yay! Awesome, cool, thanks. So it's all about establishing relationships, right? And networking. And what you're looking at here actually was a little road trip. Not every company can do this, but if you can, this was a fun one. We did a road trip from Nashville to Las Vegas for CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. It's 4,000 kilometers. In a 1972 VW bus that we restored ourselves. And I laughed during Mitch's presentation because of the picture of the Snuggie. Snuggie should have paid for the amount of exposure we gave them through this whole campaign, through all the YouTube videos, because in a desert in January in a 1972 VW bus with no heat, we gave Snuggie so much love, and they gave us warmth. So it's a good deal. So think about the events that you can hold. Again, meetups, casual meetups. It doesn't have to be overly complex. And when you're at the event, don't be this guy, right? Don't be the guy with the business cards. And this could be whether you're a sponsor or whether you're an attendee or whether you're, having the event yourself. Don't be like shoving your business card in everybody's face. Nobody likes that person, right? It's best to ask for a business card before you give one out. Just, so don't do that. Another little business card tip that I like to, and I do expect people to have business cards, I do think you should carry business cards, absolutely. But carry a pen with you, and when you meet somebody at an event, and if you have a moment, take a note on the card, especially when you're meeting a lot of people at once. Take a note about them on the card. That way later you can remember what you talked about and what you should follow up about. And I'll talk a little bit more about following up in a second here. Talk to strangers. Talk to strangers. That's what I'm talking about for you guys here at Tweetstock. Go and talk to strangers. There's a break after this. I dare you. Go and talk about how great Mitch was and how much I sucked. That's fine. That's cool. I understand. But do that. Go and talk to people and meet people. That's the whole point to this, right? Talking to strangers and listen to what they are telling you. That's a big problem where a lot of people don't listen to the answers they're getting. They're just kind of trying to talk so that they can start talking about themselves, so that they can start selling their business or their product or whatever. Don't do that. And yeah, there's an app for that. Whenever I have a coffee with somebody or at a lunch or a meeting at their office, whenever I'm driving back, I always record a little bit of audio, like an audio note to myself about the meeting, about the person, usually because I'm pressed for time because I'm running all over the place. And it's a perfect opportunity for me to use that downtime as I'm driving back to wherever I have to be or to the next meeting. So as I'm driving, I'll just record a little audio, and then I'll listen to that later or dictate it. You can use Siri or Dragon Dictation or whatever. Evernote. How many people use Evernote? Okay, so a few of you. Okay. Evernote's a great service. I won't tell you too much about it, but Evernote Hello is a newer app that they have where you can record audio notes. It also keeps a track record of the history of the meetings that you have with people. So it's quite handy to refer to later. Anybody use Bump? Okay, a few. I love it. I love Bump. It's great especially when a lot of people are using it, because you can literally bump your phones and exchange personal information. So you can bump like virtual business cards, basically. It's kind of a neat app to check out. Card Munch by LinkedIn. I don't believe it's for Android, I think, yet. But it's great because you can scan business cards. You can take a photo of it. You remember how much of a pain in the butt it was scanning business cards back in the day. Well, now you can take a photo of a business card of someone you meet, and it automatically gets transcribed by humans, and then you can connect on LinkedIn. LinkedIn Contacts is the other app here, which is only a few weeks old now, which also is a great one because that also records the history, sort of like Evernote Hello. It records the history of the meetings, and you can actually keep private notes on it. So similar to the audio idea, when you meet somebody, you can just scan the business card and take a note about them. So following up. That's, following up is extremely important. I mean, there's no point in meeting tons of people or meeting people if you're not going to take the time to follow up afterwards. There are several ways to do this. Email is obviously a great way. You can, take the time to just write an email to someone that you met. As I'm saying this, think about this and do this after TweetStalk, okay? Follow up with folks. On LinkedIn, if you connect with someone on LinkedIn, write a personal note. It drives me crazy when I get a connection request on LinkedIn, and I don't know how we met. I don't know if we met. There's spammers everywhere, so unfortunately that happens on LinkedIn as well. So it's good to leave a little personal note saying, "Hey, we met at TweetStalk. It was fun talking about whatever you talked about." TweetStalk also has a Facebook group and a Facebook page. And every event that I do, I always have an open invitation. So when you RSVP using Facebook or Eventbrite, for example, it has an open list. So it shows everybody, all the attendees. I know TweetStalk has this as well. But this is perfect because if you meet somebody and you don't get a chance to get their name, or you forgot their name, or you didn't get their card, you can go onto Facebook and put a face to their name, or name to the face. So that's a good thing to do, is go back and follow up. But since the group is there, that's a perfect place to interact with one another and meet one another again, if you met during the event. So something to do. The other thing is with Twitter, do a search for the hashtag, or search the term TweetStalk, or do a search for the hashtags TweetStalk8 or TweetStalk. And then you can create a list on Twitter. How many people use Twitter lists? Okay, not as many as I thought. How many people use Twitter? Okay, oh man, wow. Okay, so most of you are using Twitter, which is not a surprise being that this is TweetStalk. But Twitter lists, I don't know how you're doing it without lists. Create a list. So for example, South by Southwest this year, I made a list before going, a private list of all the people, all my friends that were attending. But then when I got home, I also added everybody I met this year to that list. So next year when I'm going to when it's a couple weeks before, before the big event, before South by, I'll be able to start following everybody again. And throughout the year, I'll also do that, of course. Weekly or daily sometimes, I'll go to that South by Southwest list and just check in and see what people are up to. And these are all friends that I met at that event. So use Twitter lists. Something about Twitter lists too, just to aside, there's private lists and public lists. So you don't have to make it a public list if you don't want to. It could be a private list. But yeah, use Twitter lists. That's a whole nother discussion, I guess. So good ways to stay in touch with people after TweetStalk and after any event that you're at. I wanted to end, I know I've only got 20 minutes, so I wanted to end with the TweetStalk Coffee Challenge. Yes. I talk about this in my book, about how coffee has led me to jobs, new clients, just asking somebody for a coffee. That's how I started my career, but was really by asking people for coffee. I'll tell you more about it on the break. But what I want you to do, if you're willing to do this, hopefully you're willing to do this, is take the TweetStalk challenge to meet one new person during TweetStalk. That's it, one person in the next 30 days, but you have to go for a coffee with them. Yeah, you see what I did there? So if you go to bit.ly TweetStalk coffee, that's going to generate a little tweet to say that you're going to play along and you're going to do this. I don't see any of you really scrambling to grab your phones, so maybe you won't do this. But I thought it would be a fun way for all of us to look on and see who's participating, and maybe those people are looking for a coffee date. So, ask somebody for a coffee. It's a perfect opportunity for you to go meet. New business may come from this. And find out how you can help that person that you meet. I think that's so important in this. You're networking because you are trying to find ways to help others before you're asking for any help yourself. So build your networks before you actually need them. I'm Dave Delaney, at Dave Delaney. You can check out my book if you like. Thank you very much.